authorities in Ukraine have now issued a country-wide air raid warning. And in the capital, Kyiv, the mayor says Russian airstrikes hit a 16-story residential building, leaving 2 people dead. Explosions also struck another residential building and a private home in the capital. France 24's Foreign Affairs editor Philip Turle joins me on the set now to talk a bit more about the fighting on this 20th day of war. Philip, what more can you tell us?
Well, the fact, Jeannie, that we're even discussing fighting on the 20th day of the war is a sign that this is not going the way the Russians wanted it to go to begin with, because I think that no one in the Kremlin, and let alone Vladimir Putin, the Russian president himself, would have believed that nearly 3 weeks in, the city of Kyiv would still not be in the hands of the Russians. Remember, the original plan was to roll in there, make people roll over, and take the country back within 2 to 3 days with a flash offensive. Now, if you look at Kyiv, we have a map here. You can see that on the right-hand side, the Russians are moving their forces in, and also on the left-hand side, the flashing red circles there are the latest attacks on the city. So Russians are here. They've been bombarding Irpin, which is one of the closest suburban cities towards Kyiv. The problem for the Russians here, Jeannie, is that Kyiv is a huge, sprawling city. So it's very hard to encircle that city and to make the people in there surrender. And remember that over the past 3 weeks, they've built up their defences, they've created these bunkers, they've protected their buildings, they put in anti-tank traps. So it's not easy. And at some point, the Russians can carry on bombarding if they start doing it. We've seen some today. We've got this air raid warning we've just heard about all over the country. But at some point, they will have to go in there. And I think that is what's keeping Vladimir Putin out of the city at the moment, because the Russians don't really know how they can do that. And Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, has been very adamant by saying that if the Russians want to take Kyiv, then they're going to have to flatten the city. It's going to have to be a scorched earth policy, because the people in Kyiv will never surrender. And if Vladimir Putin does have to flatten Kyiv and go in there and destroy the city, that's going to reflect pretty badly on him and his strategy amongst the Russian people. Because remember, the bottom line here, this is a special military operation, and the Russians are going in there to protect their brothers, the Ukrainians. They were like going in there to protect them against the Nazification of the city. So there's no reason for them to want to flatten the capital. So it's all looking much more complicated for the Russian leadership. Now, if we look at a map we have of the larger area of the whole of Ukraine and the way things are going there for the Russians, well, at the bottom you have Crimea, which has been in Russian hands since 2014. To the right of the picture, you have the Donbass region with Donetsk and Luhansk, the 2 Russian-controlled provinces there, which have been declared independent by the Kremlin. Now, Mariupol is right in the middle. Mariupol is a city that's coming under this perpetual bombardment for the simple reason that the Russians need to link Mariupol to the eastern region, and they want to link it to Crimea to create a corridor between the two. This is something that Vladimir Putin wanted to do back in 2014. He hasn't managed to do that. That is why the situation in Mariupol is so catastrophic. The people there say they're living in hell. But for the moment, those attacks are carrying on. And yesterday we had this convoy of 160 cars taking people out. That is just a drop in the ocean for the 500,000 people who are stuck in Mariupol at the moment. And still no sign of that humanitarian convoy bringing in urgent aid to the people. They remember they're living without electricity, they're living without heat, and they're living without food. So the conditions there are really, really terrible. And just one other thing that is important to know is that there is a push westwards, because the Russians want to take over Odessa to close off the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov, so that the Ukrainians can't use the sea area to bring in supplies, and then they want to move further north to meet up with Russian forces descending in from Belarus and into the capital, Kyiv.
Now, Philip, in the midst of all of this fighting, diplomacy is still ongoing. There are near daily negotiations between the Russian and Ukrainian sides. On Monday, those talks seem to have failed after a hint at progress over the weekend. Is there any reason to believe that there still could be some progress somewhere?
OK, let's put it this way, shall we? They're still talking. That is positive. They're still saying, both sides, that there is positive advances going on. There are positive advances. There is some progress. We don't really know what that progress is. But the bottom line is the outstanding demands from Moscow are still the same, that basically the Ukrainians should capitulate, that basically Ukraine should agree never to join NATO, basically Ukraine should agree that Crimea is an integral part of Russia, as are the 2 provinces in the Donbass region. So those are red lines for the Ukrainian president and the Ukrainian people. On the Ukrainian side, they want a ceasefire and they want Russia to withdraw its troops. That is also, for the Russians, a red line at the moment. So it's difficult to see where the two sides are going to meet. The discussion yesterday, it's true, they were interrupted for what they are saying are technical reasons because they're taking place via the internet, via Zoom. But they're due to resume today. But they're both saying, well, look, we're making some progress. Even the Kremlin is saying that some progress is being made. But there are one or two mixed signals coming out of the Kremlin right now. One of them, which comes from a man called Viktor Zolotov, who's a close Putin ally and a former bodyguard to the Russian president. And he is actually gone on the record, quoted by the Reuters news agency, as saying that not everything is going as fast as we would like, which is more or less the first time that the Kremlin has admitted to this. And we've seen this image today of this very brave editor at this TV station, Russia Number One, coming on screen with this big banner saying that lies are being told on Russian television. So the winds of change may be beginning to blow in favor of the Ukrainians.
Philip, just very briefly, President Volodymyr Zelensky is due to address the U.S. Congress tomorrow. What's he expecting from that?
Well, I think there's one thing that he's going to ask for again, and that's a no-fly zone. That's a no-go from the US because they don't want to drag NATO, the European Union and the United States into this conflict if they install this no-fly zone. But I think Volodymyr Zelensky, who's definitely won the image, the image of the leader, the galvanizing force within Ukraine, compared to Vladimir Putin, who appears more like a czar sitting in his lonely office in the Kremlin, he's going to use this as maybe an excuse. I don't know, I'm guessing here, maybe an excuse to say, well, look, we can't have a no-fly zone. NATO is not supporting us, therefore we're not going to be part of NATO. And that is maybe a bargaining chip that he can use with the Russians.
Philip, thank you so much. France 24's Philip Turle.